Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our seminar today, both in person and online. My name is Lu Wang. I'm one of the co-conveners of Technologies at Work Research Network. So before we begin, I would like to take a moment to introduce ourselves. Technologies at Work is a research network based at and founded by CRASSH, the Center for Research in Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities. As an interdisciplinary research network, we aim to facilitate dialogues across academic disciplines, policy circles, and activist fora, specifically focusing on digital technologies and their impacts on work and life. Our team includes Ambita Tandem, Ben Nabos, Dominic King, and myself. Today, we're honored to invite Dr. Hongyu Liu from University of Sussex Business School. Hong is currently a lecturer at the Department of Management, University of Sussex. After completing his PhD in sociology from Cambridge, he has taken on a lot of interesting and groundbreaking research at Warwick Business School and a lot of other research institutes. His research mainly focuses on digital labor, industrial relations, and more broadly, technologies and the society. And his topic today will be around robots at work to case studies from the Pissarides review into the future of work. And thank you, Hong, for joining us today and for coming all the way to Cambridge. The floor is yours now.
Thank you for the kind words. Can I just check in? People online, can you hear me all right?
Drop a message.
Okay, good. So my name is Hong and I'm a lecturer at the Sussex Business School. And this morning, when I was traveling from Brighton to Cambridge, it was 0 degrees Celsius this morning, and it was raining, and I was freezing. And I was thinking, it would be wonderful if there's a robot that can deliver this talk for me, and I can just stay at home and have a rest and hopefully enjoy a cup of warm coffee. But then I thought that if there's a robot to do this similar for me, the dynamic would be quite different, right? So there won't be, perhaps, I won't be able to meet everyone, I won't be able to meet students here. I won't be able to answer the question in person, and it just changed the dynamic. So this is actually the topic that I would like to share with you today. It's about the implementations of robots in the workplace and how does this change the way people experience work. And I have 2 case studies that I prepared. One is in the healthcare sector, and another one is in manufacturing. And I know that we have 2 hours for this, but I just want to divide it into 2 parts. The first bit, I'm going to talk about my research projects and share with you some of my research findings. And the second bit is going to be Q&A. It's a time for you to ask questions and just say anything it is just ask me anything about the research, or we can have like a carry-on discussions if the case study interests you. So let's begin. Before I start this, I just want to ask, when we talk about robots and work, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Anyone?
Unemployment.
Unemployment, very good. Job displacement, technological unemployment, and anything else? Or anyone online?
Automation.
Sorry, automation? Yeah.
Just refer to close that checkbox on the screen. Depends on you.
Okay. Automation, job displacement, and actually, this is something that comes to my mind as well. So, to me, the most intuitive idea is job loss, and we have seen a lot of news headlines about how robots potentially can replace workers and lead to a massive unemployment. And actually, this discourse of mass unemployment is well supported by a series of economic research is well supported by a series of economic research arguing that with the development of technology and the increase in productivity in society, one day we can live in a world that all of us can only live a few hours, can only work a few hours per week, and even we can live in a society that we don't have to work at all. And what is not agreed among these scholars is how far are we from there. So some say we can reach this phase of technological development within decades, some say even sooner. And if you know me for a few years, you might know that I work with economists and I have so much respect on their work, but I just see these questions differently. So against the background of technological development, I ask a different question. So what is the impact of robots on people who are currently working with robots? And from 2022 to 2024, I was a research fellow at the Wellbeing Business School, working with the Institute for the Future of Work to explore this question. So I conduct 11 case studies across the UK, trying to understand how new technology is changing the way people work and their work experience. And this is the 11 case studies that I conduct over the last 2 years. And about half of them, they are robotic technology. So we have a physical robots, such as surgical robots that I'm going to talk about today in NHS hospital, and welding robots in workshops and manufacturing, as well as agricultural robots that help growers and agricultural workers to do farming work, as well as service robots as well. And the second bit of this project, I look into software such as AI, generative AI, and things like that. But today, my focus is going to be on robots. So why do we have robots in the workplace? It is often expected that having robots can help increase efficiencies and productivity in the workplace. And economists have been arguing that the UK, for example, has been suffering from a low productivity for a long period of time. However, the way I see it is that the impact of new technology on work, including productivity, is not fixed, nor is it determined by its functionalities or material characteristics of the device. And that's why we see this seems to be contradictory headlines on the news. So on one hand, people plan that digital technology can give productivity boost in the workplace as we need it, but at the same time, it increased workload and hampered productivity. So this dynamic, this contradiction, is something that I'm interested in and would like to explore more in my research. So I consult the management literature, and actually the management literature has long been studying this phenomenon and trying to explain this dynamic by, for example, by the technology affordance theory, trying to understand how people perceive the advantage or the cost of technology and technological expectations as well. So what do people expect the benefits of implementing a technology in the workplace, and how does it impact on whether or not people accept it and how people use it? At the same time, some people study the cost and complexity of the technology, and they consider both sides of the implementations and come up with the unified theories of acceptance and use of technology. But what I found missing in this literature is that we didn't pay enough attention to the experience of people who use this technology. And then I turned into the social interpretations of technology that constitute to the social constructions of technology theory. And these social constructions of technology theory argue that the adoption of technology is not determined by the characteristic, but it is depends on the interactions between the social role features of technology and the context, the organizational context it is deployed. So the introduction of the same technology might have different impacts on similar groups of actors, even within similar organizational contexts, as I will present in my second case studies. So the same technology, same groups of workers, same roles, but they have totally different impacts. Okay, so my key message in this sharing is, first of all, by saying technology is good or bad for a profession is something very reductionist, and we will lose all the nuances in understanding the impact. So if we say generative AI is good for creativity or it's bad for creativity, actually we lost a lot of meanings. We lost a lot of interesting findings within this alignment. And yeah, and as I said before, the impact of technology is not determined by technological capabilities alone, but influenced by organizational, economic, and social context in which they are used. So if you are in a hurry, if you have any appointments in the evening, feel free to go, these are my message. But if you want to know more about my research and how do I come up with these two messages, please bear with me for another 45 minutes. And here we go to the first case studies about Da Vinci robots. It is a surgical robot that is implemented in many of the NHS hospitals. So about 1/3 of the NHS trust in the UK now is using this model of surgical robots. And the background of this implementation is mainly due to the shortage of skilled labor, and the situation is worsened after Brexit. So it is very difficult for the NHS to recruit surgeons or theatre practitioners from Europe, for example. And since 2019, because of the COVID pandemic, also creates more pressures on the healthcare system. And to give you a sense of urgency in this is the waiting time for a patient. The average waiting time for patients has been almost doubled in 2022, and it reached a record high of 7.8 million in 2023. And there are people who wait about 78 weeks for hospital care, for non-emergency surgery, and with about 282 extreme cases waiting for more than 104 weeks. That is more than a year for non-emergency surgery. But the promise that NHS makes is that they want to provide this non-urgent treatment within 18 weeks. But this target has not been met since 2016. So again, this backdrop, in order to clear the accumulated cases, the NHS trying to boost its productivity by encouraging NHS trusts to invest in new technology. The idea is by harvesting the productivity growth from new technology, they can have a faster patient turnover and can clear this backlog accumulated from from the COVID period. And this is the Da Vinci robot. So it consists of surgery console. This is the what the surgeon used to control the robotic arms, which is attached to the patient, and then there's a vision chart to show the surgical team what's going on inside the operation theater. So as you can see, this is not an automated robot, so you still need a surgeon to control the robotic arms, and you still need the support from the surgical team. But what it does is, it is a minimal invasive surgical approach. So compared with open surgery, for example, you don't have to cut the patient open. You just have to attach the robotic arm on, for example, if you're doing colorectal surgeries. So in my case, I visit the colorectal department, and when they do colorectal surgeries, they just attach the robotic arms on the belly of the patients and drill very small holes. So instead of cutting the patient open, it causes less harm and helps with patient's recovery because the wound is much smaller than open surgery, for example. And in this case study, I conduct multiple interviews with surgeons and NHS trust managers, directors, as well as field care workers, field care practitioners. And I also did on-site observations. So I went to the surgical theaters and see how do they work with the robots. And I also approached the tech provider, the diagnostic robot provider, but since they find out I have no interest in buying a robot from them, they just cut me loose. But yeah, this is the way I collect my data. And what I'm going to present is, instead of telling you my analysis of how these people experience the change, I just want to take you to the field and share with you our conversations so that you can try imagine their experience and try walk into their shoes. And I think my point here is to try to understand the dynamic, the struggles that they experience when working with robots. So there are things that they really love about robots. For example, better patient care. So when they see our patients recover better with robotic surgeries, there is a sense of satisfaction that is a major motivation for healthcare workers. So they can see patients being treated better compared with doing open surgery, for example. But also there are things that they don't like about doing robotic surgeries, as I will show you. And these complications, these struggles, is the reason why we cannot simply say a piece of technology is good for healthcare workers or it is bad for healthcare workers, because it is always a mixture of these feelings. So before, I visit this hospital before they install the robot, and when I speak to the field practitioners, they told me that they feel really excited about having this robot coming to the hospital because it is something new. They see that it's an opportunity for them to learn new skills, and it is also important because it brings them prestigious. Because only 1/3 of the hospitals, NHS hospitals in England, have these robots, and now they see themselves being the top 1/3 healthcare providers in England. So people really feel excited about working with robots and having these new ways of surgeries, provide this new service in the hospital. And yeah, as I said, it also brings them satisfactions when they see patients, when they believe that patients can be treated better, receive better treatment in this hospital. And yeah, they also see this as the future of healthcare, doing robotic surgery. So if they don't invest in the robots, they're also concerned about they will lose the patients. And losing patients means a lot of things in NHS trust. And one thing is financial support from the government. So if they don't have patients, then they will lose their NHS funding. And having these robots can attract more patients. And from the management perspective, it is also important because, as I said, there is a government recovery plan. They have to have quicker turnover of patients. So if the management believe that if they are using this robot, if they're doing robotic surgeries, it helps discharge patients faster in hospital. And this will help achieve the targets set by the government's recovery plan. And for surgeons, doing laparoscopic or open surgery is actually very uncomfortable because they have to maintain like a strained angle, spring positions when they cut the patient open, and when they control the laparoscope. So it often brings them occupational injuries and long-term illness associated with the neck and bodies. And by sitting next to the robot, working on the console, they can perform their work more comfortably. So surgeons really like this robot, and they also see it is a good thing because if they have less occupational injury, it means they potentially can have higher productivity at work and can serve the NHS a lot longer, and they don't have to retire in their 50s because of these injuries. The same goes to the surgical team, because doing laparoscopic or open surgery is like physically demanding, and doing robotic surgery is something more comfortable to them. So from a physical point of view, doing robotic surgery is something really beneficial to the whole surgical team. And to prepare for the implementation, there is a package of training program provided to the lead surgeon, because he's the one who controls the robot inside the operation theater. So they have programs working on they have a program to understand different parts of the machines. They have to do dry runs on dead animals or dead bodies, and then they have porters to supervise them for until they pass the course. So it is a very well supported training program for the surgeon. And the hospital that I visit, they actually provide a lot of support for the surgeons. For example, he can, in this case, the surgeons that I interviewed, he can not taking night shifts, for example, or not taking A&E shift in order to focus on the training program. So it is this kind of support that makes him feel he's being valued, and it's this kinds of support that he really enjoy the training and the process of preparing for the implementation process. However, this training process take away human resources from the management perspective, because they don't take A&E shift, because they don't take night shift. It creates pressures for those who is not involved in the robotic program. And for other surgeons and nurses, they see that the waiting list is getting longer and longer, but at the same time, people have been taken away for robotic training. So this creates a conflict between those surgeons who participate in the robotic program and those who are not. And of course, those who shoulder more duties because they are not taking in the robotic programs, they are not happy about it. For theatre practitioners, the time that they spent on training was much less than they would expect. So there were some online training observations, and then there was a date they went to a operation theatre who is doing robotic surgeries for observations, and that's it. So it is so comparatively much less than the surgeons. But even so, it creates a massive pressure for the operation management, because, as I said, it takes away human resources from the front lines, and these surgeons or these nurses, they could be used in a lot of services. They could be useful in other places, but now they have been taken away from the front lines for the robotic training. So this creates conflicts between those who is doing robotic surgeries, who is doing robotic training program, and those who are not. Surgery day. So a lot of my data collected is a lot of important data I collected is from the surgery day, because it is Because by observations, you can really see the dynamics between these people and what's worked and what's not working. And it is something complementary to interview data, because sometimes people say something, but in reality, they do other things, maybe not intentionally, but it is because of the discourse surrounding, or because of the things that they are not sure about, for example. And robotic surgery ties up surgeons and the whole surgical teams for an entire day because they are not familiar with the procedure. So this robotic surgery, at first they expect they could spend less time on patient because robotic surgery is supposed to be more efficient than traditional open surgery methods. But because the surgical team is not familiar with the procedure, so at the end, they spend the same amount of time or even longer in robotic surgery. And this, of course, upsets the management and a lot of surgeons because they occupy the operation theater. And this is the resources that the hospital has. And it's just not good for those who are not doing this program. And for the surgeon who is doing robotic surgery, he thought he was quite good at doing keyhole surgery, doing laparoscopic surgery. But now he's feeling very unconfident because of the new surgical method. And he thinks this sense of uncertainty, this sense of irritations is circulates around all the theatre practitioners as well. Because learning new skills is difficult, especially if you are not feeling well supported especially for the theatre practitioners. They feel they are not being well supported, and there is like a low tolerance of errors. They just, because it is operating on a real patient, so they feel under a lot of pressure for doing robotic surgery. Mentally, it's more draining, and one surgeon described he was like not being able to rest because of doing robotic surgery. And this is an illustration showing you what's going on inside operation theater. So the surgeon is now working with the console away from the patient. And the rest of the surgical team is staying with the patients, and they can see what the surgeon is looking at through the display unit. And this is the robotic arm, and this is where the patient is supposed to be. Okay. So the introductions of the robotic, the surgical robots changed the physical settings inside the operation theater. And this new arrangement actually makes theater nurses feel boring at work. So in the past, they feel more involved in the surgery because they are, for example, circulators. When the surgeons need a knife, they just pass a knife. When they need a particular equipment, or if the surgeons ask them to hold a particular tube to extract blood, for example, then they have to hold the tube for the surgeons. But right now, because the robotic arms do all the things that the nurses used to do, right now they just feel boring inside the operation theater. And it's not just one nurse. Every scrub nurse that I spoke to said it is really boring doing robotic surgery. So the good thing about working with robots is they have less work pressure. But the bad things about doing robotic surgery to these nurses is they no longer get involved in the process, so that they feel bored at work. And then I asked them, what about, have you think about changing your role, for example, to become a first assistant, so that you can be, the first assistant is the one who assists the lead surgeons inside the operation room. And have you think about changing your role? But then it costs them 6 months and as well as $700 to take the course, and they have to take fewer shifts, so which is another economic cost. And this is something that they cannot afford to do now. So you can see nurses, scrub nurses trapped in this road, and there's specialists for them to navigate around the new roads. As well as for junior doctors, they used to work alongside with the lead surgeons next to the patient. But right now, junior doctors is usually the first assistant in the operation theater. So in the past, the surgeon can give hands-on instructions to the first assistant, to the junior doctors. But right now, because they just separate from each other. So one is working with the console and another one next to the patient. So it also affects how do they train, and junior doctors feels like they are not being well trained only by observing the robots, because they are not behind the console. So it helps them little in terms of working with the robots. And the last bit is to deal with who can use the robots and who can choose the patient. So in the first 6 months that I collect my data, because this is a new technology, a new piece of kit, the hospital lets the robotic team to choose the patients that they feel more comfortable to work with. So those weeks operations goes to robotic surgery, because they see it as a chance for this new surgical team to practice, to sharpen their skills with these low-risk patients. But in the long run, those who are not doing robotic surgeries, they take all the high-risk patients. So they have higher failure rates, and you can see that there is a politics, there's a dynamics between those who take part in the robotic program and those who are not. And this is why, this is the capacity that I want to show you in this case study. And this is why I said it is impossible. This is why I said we can't just say a piece of technology, a piece of kit is good for surgeons, or is good for nurses, or is good for healthcare workers. We have to really understand the organizational settings and the dynamics and how people work with the technology in order to understand how do they experience these changes. And this is my first case study that I bring to you. And the second case study is to deal with welding robots, so in the manufacturing sector. So welding is a profession, is a skillful profession, required specialized training, requires specialized knowledge. But at the same time, it is a declining workforce in the UK. So there is a decline in apprenticeship, for example. People joining the industry, the numbers of people joining this industry has been declining since 2017. But at the same time, experienced welder, they are retiring because a lot of them have been in the industries for decades. So in this project, I have interviewed welders, a lot of welders. And the oldest welders that I spoke to, this gentleman here is 78 years old, and he's still in business. And the youngest is 18, who is an apprentice. So as you can see, there's like, on one hand, the workforce is aging pretty fast. I think the average age that I spoke to of welders is over 50s. But on the other hand, we see less people interested in this profession because of robots, because of technology. And some of them see this is a dying profession, as they told me, because they see that one day robots can do this job easily and they will lose their jobs. And in this case study, I have 3 sites that I collect my data from. The first one is vehicle safety equipment manufacturer in Sussex. The second one is machine shop in Darlington in the north, and the last one is a construction steel manufacturer in Sheffield. So same technology, same group of workers, but different organization settings. And as you see, how they experience, the experience that they have working with robots is different because of these different organizational structural or sometimes regional factors. Okay, methods. So I do interviews and with employers, site managers, welders, apprentices, welding supervisors, and structural engineers, and so people who has hands-on experience working with robots or who designed the welding process. And I do observations, site visits, as well as I can interview. In this case study, I can interview the tech provider, the robot provider as well. So why welding robots? The first reason is the difficulties in recruiting welders. So if we are talking about counties in the north, for example, Sheffield, which has long been like a city of steel, what they call it, a city of steel. So it is comparatively easier to recruit welders. But for example, the vehicle safety equipment manufacturer in Sussex, it is very difficult for them to recruit experienced welders. So there are welders in the market, but they are not like experienced welders. The qualities that they produce does not meet the standard that they need. That's why they want to bring in a welding robot to help the manufacturing process. And once the robot is set up and programmed correctly, it can weld 2 or 3 pieces in a single run. So in principle, it helps increase the efficiency and productivity at work. And it also helps removing the human factors of manual welding. So it provides higher weld consistency and quality for large volume productions because people get tired, people work, sometimes people in bad moods, and welding is a very hands-on, skillful craft. So by bringing in a robot, which will not affect by emotion, for example, will not feel hungry, will not feel thirsty, will not feel bored, it helps maintain the qualities of productions. And the setups is also not difficult. So you need somebody who has some welding knowledge or basic programming knowledge. And this is the benefit of bringing in the robot. From the management perspective, the management that I spoke to, a benefit of implementing a robot is to lower the demand of manual labor in the production process so that they can provide more flexibilities in managing their workforce. So that when people want to ask for leaves, so that they can use the robots to keep the production line going. And in one case, the employer actually shared the profits that they make from the robots with the workers, so that it helps, like financially, it is a financial incentive for the welders to accept the robots. And it is also believed that, so it is the management belief that by taking away the repetitive tasks from the production lines and assign it to the robots, it can help welders to increase their satisfactions at work because they don't have to do the repetitive tasks and can focusing on something more interesting from the management perspective. The last bit is to improve occupation safety because robotic welding does not require the operator or the welders to be next to the machines. Because when you do manual welding, it is very common to have minor injury, such as thumb burnings, because they just want to hold the metal in pieces and they just use the welding gun to burn and then it will easily burn their thumbs and things like that. But by using robots, it helps improve the occupation safety by removing the human elements in the welding process. So instead of feeling at risk of being replaced by the robots, the majority of the welders that I spoke to actually feeling really positive about introducing robots because of the financial schemes that I mentioned, because of the training that they receive, because they see it helps with their productivity and things like that. Actually, they feel well accept that working with robots is okay for them. And one of the crucial factors that I found is that a lot of welders believe that you need an experienced welder to set up the robot in order to produce a high quality product. So you can't just ask somebody, you can't just pick somebody from the street and then teach him programming and then ask him to set up the robot and then do the welding. You need to have some basic knowledge or even advanced knowledge in metal, in welding, in order to design the correct path of how the welding guns goes, or in order to design the most efficient way to weld different parts in a single one, for example. So you need some knowledge or even advanced knowledge in order to produce quality welding work when you work with your robots. And this makes welders feel safe because they still see their role in this welding process. At the same time, some welders, they also experience augmentations and upskillings, as well as the social prestiges of working with robots. So there was a time, actually 2 times, when they showed me how the robots works. And welders, they were like taking videos and posting it on social media, showing their friends, send to their family that, okay, right now, I have a robot in my workplace. It is something that you don't have in yours. So it comes with a social prestigious when they work with a robot. In one case, in the machine shops that I went to, they actually want to hire more experienced welders in order to utilize the full potential of the welding robot, because they want to do something, but they don't have the skills needed to program the robot. So now they need to hire somebody with more welding experience to operate the robot. And this is something that is contrast to our the convention, the belief that, okay, blue collar work is as weak, it is most replaceable by robots. But this is actually not the case. Blue collar work is still safe in this case because their skills is still valuable when they work with robots. On the other hand, manual weldings offer a lot of possibilities in the production process and more cost effective in small batch productions, because you need to program a robot to do the jobs. And if you make every changes to programming, it is going to be more time costly. But instead, you can just do this manually, which is straightforward and direct in manual welding. And some welders that I spoke to actually believe that they can weld better and faster than the cobot. And this brings them a sense of pride that, you know what, it makes them proud, really, really proud, when they see they can do something similar quality or even better quality when working with robots. But on the other hand, compared with manual welding, cobot, this welding robot has much lower engineering tolerance. Engineering tolerance is a technical term to describe that. Sometimes when they, for example, a workshop, when they buy metal sheets, and what you order is like a 10 centimeters long and 10 centimeters long metal sheets, a piece of metal sheet. But sometimes when they cut the metal sheets, it is 11 centimeters. It is 10.5 centimeters. So it is not exactly according to the measure that you ordered. And if you are doing manual welding, it is very easy to adjust. It is very easy to spot the 1 centimeter longs, because these welders, they are really well experienced. But for the robot, it can't really tell it is 10 centimeters long or it is 10.1 centimeters long. So it has much lower engineering tolerance. That means that it's more difficult for the welding fabricators, to the workers who prepare these materials, they need to be more accurate and they need to be more precise when preparing the materials. This will cause them more pressure on their work for fabricators. So, for example, this is the materials that they use for weld in a welding productions. And sometimes, if you have like a long steel and you cut them into small fractions, it is difficult to cut it in exactly 20 centimeters. Sometimes you have 21, sometimes you have 22. And these variations, this engineering tolerance is smaller in a robotic process compared with manual process. The last bit is in the construction steel company. So the last bit is about the construction steel company. So they use this welding robot in their production process, and it is permitted according to the instructions from the British Construction Steel Work Association. So it has a standard of welding procedure, and welders has to follow this particular standard in construction steel welding, so that they know that every piece of steel is worked according to the welding standard. And it is okay according to the BCSA to use robots to weld construction steel. However, there is no mention that whether or not the robot operator has to be a qualified welder or not. Because in the past, when you do a manual welding, you need to be a qualified welder. You need to be, for example, a level 2 qualified welder in order to handle construction steel. Or you need to use the robots, a qualified welding robots to handle construction steel. But what about the robot operator? Because right now, you just need somebody who knows a little bit about programming to operate the robot. And this is not sure. There's a gray area in this, whether or not you need a qualified welder to operate welding robots. But in this company, they want to be safe, so they assign a qualified fabricator to operate the robot. But to this fabricator, he said, operating the robot is not a job for me. It's just a job for operator, because I'm a qualified. I was trained to be a welder fabricator. So this is a waste of my skills, just by pressing buttons. And in reality, the impact of robot welding on welders' job satisfactions is found to be more complicated. Because remember, at the very beginning, the management believed that by assigning those repetitive tasks to the robots, it helps improve their welders' job satisfactions, because they don't have to do these repetitive tasks. But the welders actually told me that doing repetitive tasks is not a problem. It's never a problem for them. The more they do it, the better they do it. And this repetitive task, actually gives them a sense of security, because they can predict, okay, this afternoon, I can do 50 of this. And next morning, I can do 50 of this. I can work on my schedule better, so that they can have a better sense of security at work. But by taking away these tasks and asking them to do non-repetitive tasks, they feel less secure at work, because their task is not predicted. They don't know about their schedule. It is difficult for them to predict how much time do they going to spend. The work is less predictive. And another bit is, welders feels that it is very important to have hands-on control on their work. So they have to touch the product. They have to weld their product. And by pressing a button by using the welding robot, it takes away the opportunity. It takes away the opportunity for them to have hands-on control on their product over their products. And I think this relates to Marx's ideas of alienation. So they are alienated from their product a bit more because right now they control the welding process through the machines, through the robotic arms, and this actually lowers their satisfaction because the studies of blue collar works often suggest that like the demonstrations of masculinity is part of the satisfactions that blue collar workers has. It's the energies that they use, it is the power that they exercise at work, makes them feel happy, makes them feel satisfied at work. It's a part of their identity. And using a robot take away these opportunities of having hands-on control. So it is 4 minutes past 6, and I covered 2 of my cases. And my key message, let me repeat myself, is by saying a technology is good or bad for professions, it's something that's too reductionist, too simple, and it lost the whole picture, all the nuances in understanding the actual impacts on work. And as we can see from the welding robot examples, different organization setting, different economic settings, social settings will change the way how the technology is used and therefore how people experience the impacts. And yeah, that's all for me for today. Any questions is welcome. Thank you for your patience and listening. Yeah.